kitchen surveillance, why being a people pleaser in kitchens can be a negative, and also how the economics of being a cook are no longer making sense in this day and age. This is Ray DeLucci. This is the Repertoire Report. Before we get into it, please, if you go on YouTube, you like and subscribe. It's helping our channel grow. We are going for 3,000 followers. We're at 2,044 right now, so 3,000 is the next milestone. So please go subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, please like and follow the podcast. Leave a rating as well. But let's get into this. First thing I want to talk about today is something that's pretty dystopian in my opinion, and it is the idea of AI cameras in kitchens. And what am I meaning by this? This episode is very Reddit line cook coded focused, and these three topics are pulling from users within the restaurant industry talking on Reddit. And so I wanted to kind of do a deep dive into some topics maybe we haven't talked about on the channel as much lately. I think that these topics are going to be something that I hope you find interesting. And this first one was kind of actually scary. And so this is from Kitchen Confidential Reddit, and they say, really just as demoralizing to even be making this post, but has anyone else's restaurant implemented AI-powered cameras in their kitchens? Owner at the bar I work at and our sister restaurant is looking to implement an AI camera system throughout our kitchen areas that will record and track all actions by staff and then determine how we arrange our lines and work. I work in a fine dining environment. This just feels like a slap in the face. I didn't even know now that this BS was a service being offered out there, but has anyone else had to deal with this? So I saw this post and I immediately was like, okay, this is kind of weird. This is creepy. Obviously, I do not want AI powered stuff monitoring my every move in a workspace. Well, then we go even further. We go down to look to this other post that was in a Reddit thread. And this one was actually in Reddit. This person shared 6 months ago. Discussion: I've been a waitress for about 9 years. I work in a restaurant with a big regular customer base in a small town that's been open for over 50 years. Many parts of the restaurant are in desperate need of repair, but I just heard last night we now have AI cameras in the back of house. Track us, name us, and text the owner / upper management if servers are on their phone, stealing fries off the line, or God knows what else as of now. And then depending on what we do, good / bad, there's a graded point system, all tracked by AI. One of my coworkers last night was checking her phone in the middle of her double shift. She had no tables, and got a text from the co-owner to get off of her phone. He then proceeded to brag to her about the use of the AI interface security camera and all its features. She's now in the quote-unquote red zone for being on her phone. Am I wrong for wanting to leave my employment because of this? It's giving no trust between management and employees, feels invasive, and frankly feels like a waste of money. How would you feel? To start, what a creepy premise. What a creepy premise. You're working on the line, you're working in the kitchen, and a camera, okay, like obviously there's cameras in workplaces, this is nothing new. But a camera that identifies you, labels you, and then monitors your work is quite honestly one of the craziest things I've heard in terms of in terms of employee management. There is an Instagram post that went viral, though. It's a cafe. It was active program, but I'll leave the link in the bio. And it's a cafe, and it's detecting the employees on the right-hand side, and I'm watching it now. And it has them all labeled, and it's showing their productivity, how many cups of coffee they've served or whatnot. And then on the left, it's detecting how long the restaurant customers have been there. So 2 guests have been there an hour and 15 minutes at the bar. A few have been there 25 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes. And so it's detecting the guests in terms of how long they've been there, but it's also detecting, identifying, and showing a map of the employees at this coffee shop and their productivity. And I would just say that all of this is kind of getting insane, because what that means is that the identification system has to be using some sort of facial recognition and a personal re-identification technology in order to find out who you are. So I went into the comments and I was just like, what is everyone saying about this? And the first comment that was most upvoted is, yeah, get out of there. They will never hold on to staff with that policy. Someone else said they wouldn't even give notice. Let the AI tell them you quit since it keeps tabs on y'all so well. And the other person says, honestly, I'd be gone so fast. I've never stolen for a job or anything like that, but knowing that's where the owners had put funds instead of numerous necessary repairs would be good for me. And then someone also said this is next level micromanagement. And then it keeps going on. Yeah. And then there is some people saying where they live, the cameras wouldn't be allowed on the back of house. But yeah, I think just this idea of surveillance of kitchen staff. If we were to say AI is going to disrupt kitchen workers, if we were to say AI was going to take jobs, that's what everyone was worried about. I don't know that we were as worried about the surveillance piece, and maybe this was just being naive, but the surveillance piece is probably now that what I'm saying is likely more of what we need to be focused on or worried about when it comes to AI. Because the surveillance of cooks, the surveillance of workers to identify, to if you're on your phone and you need to check something and you get yelled at, if you somehow mess up, having human error, like you're using a technology based system to manage and oversee humans, and humans make mistakes. But beyond that, the inability to manage, inability to trust. This person shares like all the renovations or the upgrades that they could be using for staff and whatnot. And instead, they're using it to surveil their employees. And I just wanted to put this video out because it's like we need to be aware of this as an industry, and we need to push back on this in terms of restaurant. We need to be aware of this in the industry, and we're like, this just is something that we need to be very cautious about. If you're a restaurant owner, you need to be very cautious about this. I'm not even sure the legality of collecting data like this or what it entails, but if we're at a point in the restaurant workforce where we just have to track and manage everyone through AI, and we get to the point where workers are like, you could argue that at the end of the day, everyone will be in this quote unquote red zone if they're not productive enough. Like, there's going to be days that are worse than others. Like, the restaurant industry is a very challenging place. You're not always going to have a green zone, quote unquote, type day. And so to have this AI tracking system just be one more thing that's going to just really demoralize workers. B, it takes the management responsibility out of the people running these restaurants. And that's like the other thing that's a little bit infuriating to me. Actually, really infuriating is these AI systems that are tracking. It's like a key part of owning or managing a restaurant is the management itself. Like the act of managing your employees, the act of managing the business, being there, being present, being able to be on site and coach and train and lead other human beings to do their job effectively. If you cannot do that, a la Renee Redzepi, all these other examples we've had, you can't, like, the answer shouldn't be to outsource it to AI. The answer shouldn't be to outsource it to a robot. And it's just this need for the restaurant industry right now to try to just squeeze everything out of the workforce. It's like, what are we doing? Like, have we not like kind of lost the plot? If we're to the point where we have AI systems putting on a point scale the effectiveness of your kitchen workers, you may have lost the plot as a restaurant owner. Because what this only does is it creates more distrust, and it creates more of an incentive for people not to want to work in the restaurant industry. Because if you look at all the workforce, the restaurant industry is one of the hardest to stay sustainable in. It's demanding, it's long, it's hard on your body, it's hard on the workers themselves. And to just have this other incentive where you're going to be tracked by AI, and your worth as a worker, as a cook, as a chef is going to be determined by a robot, by an algorithm. Like, at what point do we say, hey, yeah, maybe this isn't the best idea? And so it's really frustrating because, like I said, you had this post from 6 months ago in Server Life. You had this post literally 14 hours ago from Kitchen Confidential. And if you go to look up, like if I just go up looking like AI kitchen camera tracking, like, and you go on these sites using machine vision to optimize kitchen operations, smart kitchen automation, and like there's these cameras where they're detecting like if see, this is the tricky part. This is where it gets odd for me, because you have this site here and it's showing like the camera's actually not on people, it's on the ingredients, right? So it's looking at it's like a line, it's like a Chipotle line, and it's showing that the AI is going by using 3D dimensional data. So let's just use it for example. It says 3D dimensional data for measuring ingredients of variable sizes. And then it looks at volume detection and lets you know what's low. So it shows the guacamole is low, it shows sour cream is low, but everything else is like at a 90% fill rate. But it's on the line in front of the workers. So, like, you don't need to have that. Like, that is insane to me. There's humans there. They can see. And when you go to Chipotle and it's empty, they remove it and put a new one in. We've already built these systems in place. Why do you need an AI camera to track that? Why do you need an AI camera to tell you that guacamole bin isn't full? Like, this is what I'm getting to. It's just too much. It's too much. What are we doing? I don't know. If you have worked in a place that has camera AI monitoring like this, or any sort of AI monitoring, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your experience. I'd love to hear if it was accurate or if it's actually added more headache to your life. This was the last one. This was in Reddit/culinary. It says AI kitchen robot that watches your food cook and warns you before you mess up. It just came across this idea from Gambit Robotics and thought it was wild. A kitchen device that mounts under your stove hood and uses cameras to track your cooking in real time. It's like having a sous chef that never blinks. The tech uses computer vision to recognize when food is done, when oil's too hot, or if you've forgotten something. Not sure if it'll be affordable for regular people, but if it helps reduces kitchen stress, I'd try it. It's just like we're overthinking this, man. We're overthinking this. Learn to cook. This is what I'm talking. Learning to cook is such a fundamental skill for every human being. Understanding how to manipulate food to get good flavor, get good taste, be nutritious for yourself. Just learn to cook. This want to automate the restaurant experience, what I would argue is one of the last true human interactive beautiful ways to engage with other humans through the storytelling of food, through the storytelling of dining and service and care. To just not be a part of that anymore, just to write that off is just insane to me. It's wild. I don't know what else to say to it. It's sad. AI tracking, not being able to trust employees, not being able to trust the people that you employ, the people that give up their time, their hard-earned work. Again, I'm early on this. This isn't being adopted everywhere, but the fact that it's even out there, that it's even being considered, I'm going to say a strong no to it, because I think that this is just, it's overreach. It's too much, and it's going to just push more people out of the industry. And as a focus on that, I wanted to go to this next segment that we're creating an industry that is just not working for people. So this was from 2 hours ago of me doing my research this morning. I like to go through stories. I have an outline throughout the week, but then I'll go through and I'll peruse. And I just found these topics really fascinating today. And so if you'd like to hear more of this, like obviously subscribe to the channel. But this next one was interesting to me. It's the best way to become financially stable in this industry. The person asks, I've been working as a cook for the past 2 years, and I'm making $600 to $700 a week for 36 hours of work per week. They get paid bi-weekly, and not even on days where I can effectively pay rent on the little pay I do receive. I've canceled all my subscriptions, and I still can't seem to keep money in my bank account with the cost of living right now. Like, God forbid I need gas and to pay my rent at the same time. I burnt through all my savings. Does anyone have any advice on becoming financially stable in this industry while working one job, or is it a pipe dream? And so, I mean, this is the next thing that I'm really worried about is the financial economics of working in the restaurant industry, the ability to make a livelihood in the restaurant industry. And I hate the argument where it's like, oh, well, these jobs were just made for people in college. No, like restaurants are one of the biggest employers. I think it's like second biggest employer behind the government, although that might have changed this year. And like service, it employs so many people, and it's getting very difficult for cooks and people in the food world to make a living. Like people on the line, like it just isn't economically feasible to work 36 hours and not be able to. And I know people will say, oh, you should be working 40 hours. Like sometimes your restaurant doesn't have the shifts available to do that. Sometimes you don't have the volume to schedule a full 40 hours. And a lot of restaurants won't schedule past 40 because they don't want to pay overtime. And so it's this idea where people in the restaurant world are getting 2 to 3 jobs. And I know this isn't new. You might be listening and go like, right, I've had 2 to 3 jobs for years, but we're getting to the point now where the economics for a cook to be in the industry is no longer, it's not working. It really is not working. So if you're at $600 to $700 a week, that's 36 hours a week. You're roughly making $16 to $19 an hour. And that's pretty much the national average. So the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics says the median pay for cooks is $17.19 an hour, and restaurant cooks specifically earn a median of around $17.20 an hour, or about $35,800 annually. That's the average for the restaurant industry. So that is $36K before taxes. The amount of money this person was saying is they're taking home $600 to $700 a week, so $1,400, like $2,800 a month. You add in rent, your car payment, car insurance, health insurance, if you have student loans, and it's just like cooking is becoming more expensive, and the people that are making food that is demanded to be inexpensive can't afford to live their lives. And on top of this, you look at the working on weekends, working on holidays, missing life moments, the toll it takes on your body, and just cooking is not it's just not appealing to a lot of people right now. And Justin and I have covered this, and this is why Justin's so bullish on total station domination, why he's so bullish on Chef Tech Stack, why he's so bullish on implementing systems. Justin, this is why I do Repertoire. He has such a good insight as to how to make restaurants better, but many restaurants just don't put the time or the effort in to really ensure their employees have what they need. And we look at this from a restaurant perspective. We know restaurants aren't swimming in money. The typical profit margin is only 3 to 5%, with healthy operators landing around 5 to 10%. And if we have this consumer slowdown, like restaurants are feeling it, then workers are feeling it. And so it's just this whole cycle of where this the economics of being a line cook are just not appealing to people anymore. And I think what you're going to see, and we're seeing this already, is restaurants are finding it harder and harder to staff. And and it is because there is less labor available to them, right? Or there's less labor willing to go in at any certain time. If the median cook wage is $17 an hour, like it's just not as appealing. I think that as a society, we want talented people to be cooking our food. We want people to be in the restaurant industry. We as a society need to start to decide, are we willing to foot the bill to help restaurants give their staff affordable lifestyles? We've seen so many times customers get mad at service fees or service charges, but it is those fees and charges that allow a restaurant to actually pay their staff better, to actually encourage a higher wage for their workers. And when we see this pushback, it really is distressing because like I've seen it so much over the last year. And I know there's going to be there could be a lot of disagreement. You might think, how are restaurants supposed to pay more? It's more a societal thing. The cost of food is going up. We've covered this many times. Restaurants are not pricing their menus nearly as much as they should to recover from inflation or just the price of cost of goods going up. And that unfortunately leads to, like, yes, you're still getting decent pricing on food as a consumer, but the wages aren't going up, and the way the work is handled is not being done properly, and it just becomes this total nightmare of a scenario where it's like, what is going on? So, man, it's hard to see. Looking at some of the comments, like someone says, they have time for a second job. They were a brunch cook and were only working about 36 hours. So I got a part-time prep gig, worked like 2 to 3 10-hour shifts on top of my normal brunch. So you're looking at if you're working 10 more hours, you're looking at 66 hours of work per week. That is not sustainable for everyone. If you have a family, if you have other responsibilities, and someone says like find somewhere willing to pay overtime or gain more experience, getting paid to do different things, like pop-ups, bar backing, serving, staging, working a cheese or meat counter, in the substantial amount of free time you currently possess. For reference, my dishes and prep cooks make almost twice as much as you, but also work almost twice as much as you. And that's the thing that I think is like, it's not the best advice, is because you don't know this person's situation. Maybe they have children to care for. Maybe they have people to look out for. The description of you just need to work 60 hours a week, you need to work and melt your face off until you make enough money is like, it's not feasible. It's not good advice. And it's until we as an industry and as a society start to recognize that we need to start understanding that the economics of being a cook are getting worse and worse every year. Like, we need to get to that point. And then it's like, and it's that hard place where then the people who back AI are going to be like, well, let's just use these AI systems to put it in place, and we'll save so much on labor. And it's, well, like where is this going? Maybe is my question. And leave it in the comments. But where is it going? Where is the industry going if we're tracking and monitoring and surveilling employees and we can't pay them enough, and then we're just eventually going to just automate the entire dining experience? Like, where does that lead to? Is that the outcome or the future we want? Do we want to be in a food future where it's all automated, it's all just surveillance and third pans that are half full and get automatically dispensed, and plates that are perfectly, mediocre that get sent out? Where is this all going? What is the end goal of all of this would be my question. So let me know your thoughts on the economics. I mean, I know a ton of you. I've talked to a bunch of you in the audience that are like, this isn't making sense. Just some advice. Unfortunately, like at some point you probably have to like go from kitchen, like line cooking, to either a managerial position. You might have to go into R&D. You might have to go into food manufacturing, corporate kitchens such as hospitals and whatnot. Like, they will often pay better or have better overall like benefit packages, like corporate dining. And the people in the food industry don't have, like, when I was at like 2015, when I was like going to CIA and like coming up, it was like, you would scoff at that. You would go, oh, you're selling out, you're going to go to corporate dining. We don't, as an industry, you don't have the luxury to scoff at quote unquote corporate dining anymore. Like, that's what most people are going to have to go do at this point, because the logistics of independent restaurants are just so frustratingly bad. And it's often not anything like, yes, there are bad operators. Yes, there are people with bad financials, but it's also, we have incentivized an industry that's cutting out so much of what makes the industry special. So Again, maybe a alarmist type of podcast today, but these two trends of like the AI surveillance and the constant posting of people not being able to make it work in this industry it should concern everyone that loves restaurants, that loves food. And so I wanted to talk about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. All right, my last theme today is going to be this idea of people pleaser in kitchens. I thought this was a great question to ask, and I wanted to dive deep into it. So, this person says, "Hi, I have been working as a line cook dishwasher at a job I really like for close to 4 years now. A few months ago, I asked to become a shift lead, which was accepted. It took a really long time, but I am training over the last couple of weeks. My issue is that all of the issues I see in the morning are brushed off as, oh, we were busy last night, every single time. Because my training isn't fully put out there, I've just been picking up their slack on a short staffed morning shift every time. It is hard for me to constantly internalize doing so much extra when night shift comes in and plays around for the first hour that they arrive. One of my managers is kind of checking it out. The other understands but can't do much because he keeps bringing up the same issues as well. How can I manage this before I am in charge of the shift and not make my coworkers hate me?" Uh, you know, the the framing of this question tells me that you are a people pleaser. Like you want, and like everyone should generically or genuinely want to have the people they work with enjoy working with them. Like I think that that is one of the beauties of kitchens. Is like you can enjoy working with the people you work with. You can enjoy being with the people that you spend so much of your time with. But where that can start to fall apart is when you don't set boundaries and you don't set expectations. And so I wouldn't even view this as like, oh, I'm a people pleaser and I'm having an issue getting people to listen to me. It's like, this is keeping these boundaries, setting these boundaries, speaking up and talking to my team is for the benefit of all of us. It's for the benefit of keeping our jobs. It's for the benefit of keeping the restaurant moving. Because this snowball of a shift not getting work done and then it being piled on you and then this keeps going on and on and on doesn't ever end up working. It leads to burnout. It leads to your morning cooks quitting or going somewhere else. It leads to you maybe quitting or going somewhere else. And there's no outcome that really is a positive. And I'm not saying, and again, this isn't, I like the framing of this question because there is an ownership aspect of it, but the ownership shouldn't solely fall on you as a shift lead. Like your managerial team should be addressing this. If you've come to them with this, any good managerial team will sit down with the shift leads, the managers of the restaurant across the entire board and set those expectations. And so what really needs to happen is your managerial team needs to sit down with your entire management team or the leadership in your restaurant and go, look, these are the defined expectations each shift. And now maybe those expectations are too much. Maybe the night shift is busier and they can't get it all done. But then a system needs to be in place for it to be accounted for elsewhere. But to simply have not having tasks get done on time in a timely manner that's efficient for the organization, time and time again, and then having to have the morning crew do, I mean, I've worked this before. It's just poor leadership. It's poor kitchen management. You need your managers to step in. You need them to actually lead and manage. They need to do the role of their job. And if they're not going to do that, then yeah, then that's a kitchen you got to ask yourself why you're a part of. But I don't recommend leaving like right now or like in the near future. But over time, management will need to do what they're being paid to do as well. But in terms of people pleaser, I struggle with this a lot. When I started young in kitchens in terms of like a managerial role. And it was very hard for me at first to give critique, give feedback, or even set boundaries. And what I think you need to first get out of your mind is that there's some negative sentiment when you're asking to set a boundary in a working space. When you're saying, "Hey, this prep needs to get done. Like this was your job." As long as you say it respectfully, like that is not a negative. Telling your coworkers like, "Look, you need like this is where you're missing and it's bringing down our team's ability to get their jobs done," is not a negative. Giving feedback and setting boundaries is like, hey, like I'm not going to be able to cover whatever you don't get done if you're going to choose not to do it, is not a negative. Those aren't inherently negative or bad things. And I think that's what I had to learn when I was coming in the industry is like setting boundaries for myself and setting that tone of like, this is what I need. I'm going to try my best and work hard, but I'm also not going to like just take other people's slack. I'm not going to just let them slack off and then I'm just going to pick it up. Like I need to set that boundary too. If you don't do that, then yeah, kitchens become very hard. And this is just for any advice, manager, cook, chef. There's a difference between saying it's not my job and not doing the extra and always having to pick up the slack of others because they're not doing their job. And I think sometimes managers will kind of get this wrong, where they'll hear someone like this person in the morning say, "Hey, we have to keep picking up the slack. This isn't necessarily our job." And because in restaurants, there's been this ingrained, you don't ever say it's not your job. You have to do, sometimes you're going to have to be asked to do more. But like that is not the point of this. The point of this is this person has been doing more, but it's getting to the point where they're so overwhelmed and overworked that it's like there's stuff is going to fall through the cracks, and your end customer is going to have a worse experience for it, which then leads to poor business outcomes. And so, from a managerial perspective, your immediate reaction can't just be, "You need to do the work," because you can't just say that it's not your job. Like that is not ever going to work. Like that's just not a good response. So back to this person though, as someone who is a chronic people pleaser, people pleasing does not get you far in restaurants. And that do not take that as you need to be an a-hole or you need to be rude or you need to be, but being firm in your boundaries, being firm in your expectations, and being clear on what you can and can't or are willing to or not do is the best way to get ahead in a restaurant. It garners you respect. It allows people to know what they need to do. And because restaurants are so hard, sometimes people will let things slip through because they want to test and see what they can like how can I make this easier for myself? And it's just human nature. And you setting those boundaries and you being able to go, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to support this workload or whatever you're leaving behind," will redefine your role as a person. I struggle with this a ton. People I hated confrontation, and I hated like letting people down or being disappointing. And I was young and I had a chip on my shoulder and I wanted to prove myself. So I wanted to take more on to prove that I could do more things in the restaurant. But there comes a time where you just have to kind of be like, yeah, I have my boundaries. I have what I'm working towards, and I can't support taking on more if it's missed by the night shift. So be kind, be empathetic, be there. Like obviously be there to help you might have to take on the night shift's work sometime if they got slammed. But if it's consistent, there's a lack of managerial process. There's a lack of systems in the restaurant, and there's a lack of holding to accountability every shift equally. And just because there's night shift and might not be as much management there doesn't mean they get away with things. And so I would clearly define those expectations and those boundaries for your management team, especially if you're a kitchen leader. They obviously see value in you. They respect you. And even how you framed it, you said I applied to the kitchen leader and I was a role and I was accepted. I am proud of you. I'm glad that happened. It shouldn't be like you were honored to do that. You obviously worked hard and have value for this restaurant, so they're giving you that opportunity. It is a business relationship. Treat it as such. Treat it as, yes, I worked hard to get this, but they're also relying on me because of my skill set I have. And when you look at it from that perspective, you can actually define your boundaries even better. So that would be my advice. All right, last up. The meme stock trend has come to restaurants, and I just wanted to read quickly this article by the Wall Street Journal. Quote, "Meme stock traders rally around Wendy's. Shares of the beloved but beleaguered chain surge after individual investors rush to defend our pigtailed savior from detractors." I want to share that this is not financial advice. This podcast does not serve as any sort of financial advice to anyone. We are not recommending you buy stocks, trades, whatever else. This is simply an entertaining story. So, the meme stock crowd has a new favorite burger chain. Shares of Wendy's have soared this week after legions of retail traders piled into the beaten-down restaurant operator, reviving a playbook that seeks to punish the haters, which they call professional investors who short sell stocks, for betting against the stock. And as investors had with GameStop and AMC Entertainment, Wendy's new champions took to Reddit, the message forum app, to defend the fast food chain and cheer on the rally. The power of Reddit. All these different restaurant workers go there. Meme stock wars happening over Wendy's. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. Quote, "Our world will not be shaken. Wendy will prosper," says a user with handle Mr. Night Owl on Wednesday. Wendy's shares have climbed around 18% since Tuesday, when another poster, Elegant Combination 43, issued a call to arms on Reddit's Wall Street Bets forum to other individual investors. Quote, "We need to save Wendy's before it's too late." It's the same message board that helped launch the 2021 retail buying spree in shares of GameStop. Short sellers bet against stocks by either borrowing shares to sell them or through derivatives, granting the buyer the right to sell an asset at a specific price. Quote, "Yes, our pigtailed savior may make a comeback." More than 100 million Wendy's shares changed hands as of Thursday's close, according to FactSet. The stock's daily volume even exceeded that of Micron Technology, the memory chip manufacturer that had reported blockbuster earnings after Wednesday's market close and surged 16% on Thursday. For the second straight session, NASDAQ stepped in to halt trading in Wendy's temporarily after the stock turned volatile. Wendy's fell about 6.7% to $7.33 a share on Thursday, a mixed and relatively calm session for a market that had posted big swings in recent sessions. The S&P 500 index fell less than 0.1%, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average added 0.1% or 72 points. The NASDAQ composite slipped 0.5%. They go on to say that Wendy's stock has fallen about 38% in the past year, weighed down by slumping U.S. sales and thinning margins thanks to higher prices on beef and other commodities. Wendy's challenges have made it a target for short sellers. The number of shares that have been sold short by investors up about 81% in late May from the start of 2026. They go on to say that the COVID-19 pandemic presented new challenges. A brutal combination of foot traffic drops and a losing value war with competitors such as McDonald's and Burger King had Wendy's trailing its peers. In the past 5 years, Wendy's stock has slumped about 68.4%. So just a fun, quick hit to end the podcast today. Meme stock war over Wendy's. It's always interesting when restaurants are used in the forefront of some sort of cultural moment, and for this time it was Wendy's. Thank you for listening to this episode. This has been Ray DeLucci with the Repertoire Report. If you're on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe. If you're following on Apple or Spotify, please follow along, leave a review, share with a friend. A lot to get into today. The AI surveillance in kitchens, the economics of being a cook, and people pleasing. 3 topics. Let me know if you enjoyed the show. This has been a solo episode. I'll be back with Justin next week. If you have not watched, we have ended coverage of the Noma story. Our last video has done really well, so if you haven't seen that, go watch that next. Thank you all for listening, and I'll see you on the next Repertoire Report.